Hey guys, it's Leaf. I thought I'd show you my Stamina Nightblade build that I've been playing with for a while now. I actually started playing this build in Thieves Guild, and I've been making some minor changes to it since then. But with Thieves Guild came Eternal Hunt, which is the crafted set you can craft right here. And this is kind of the bread and butter of this build. It's like what makes this build work, kinda. There's actually a lot of different things that go into this build, but Eternal Hunt is really good. I thought I'd start with the stats, so I went 64 attribute points into stamina, but you might want to spread these out more, and I'll tell you why later. Max Magicka, about 11k, max health. In Cyrodiil, that's going to be about 20.5k with Battle Spirit. Max Stam, 29k back bar, and 27,700 front bar. And then we got kind of low resists on front bar without any armor buffs, but on back bar we have defending, so it increases that a little bit. And we got 2k crit resist, 1200 magic recovery, 355 health recovery, 2735 stam recovery, and then front bar weapon damage unbuffed is 2841. With rally, that is about 3348. And then let's see if I can get a buff with that with the weapon damage glyph. That gets to 3808. Okay, so Serpent is what I run on this build, and then Magic and Stamina Recovery Drinks is what I run, and those are really important to this build because you really want to have high regens to pull this build off. For gear, 5-piece Eternal Hunt, like I said before. The 5-piece is really good because you can use it both offensively and defensively. Offensively, you can stun them while you roll at the same time, usually with Incap, and then they'll land on the rune. Defensively, because if you roll dodging away, they'll get immobilized by the rune that it leaves behind. So, really good set offensively and defensively. I actually gold this set out because I've been using it so much, but I did infused on the big pieces, and I put a triglyph on the big pieces. And if you don't want to do that, then I'd recommend putting points into health, because otherwise you're not going to get that 20k health spot, which I think is important to have in Cyrodiil. Then I have the impen on the small pieces. Everything's enchanted stam. So infused, impen, infused, impen. And then I got well fitted on Veldreth arm cops for the weapon damage, and Malakina's mask impen for the weapon damage. If you don't like those traits, I definitely recommend trying out different combinations, especially if you don't want to use infused, or maybe you want to use more impen or more well fitted. Definitely try it out. This is just what works for me and what I'm used to. And then I got 3 agility, all healthy. If you don't have healthy, actually this one's robust, but if you don't have healthy on at least 2 of them, then you definitely want to put more points into health, unless you don't think you need the health. All 3 of them are weapon damage. And then the Master Bow defending. This is really nice on this build because that weapon damage enchant makes a big difference. However, my friend told me that sometimes when he animation cancels poison injections, so say he poison injections and swap bars, sometimes he doesn't get the bonus. I haven't really tested it out too much. It's worked for me mostly, so I use it, I like it. And then crafted 2H sharpened with the weapon damage glyph. If you have a Maelstrom sharpened, that's probably good too. And then if you have Maelstrom sharpened, you probably want to use poisons or something, I don't know. There's this really good poison that's like 2 different dots. It's like 1 Ravage Health and another Ravage Health. It does a lot of damage, so I'd recommend that if you have the VMA. And then for skills, Shadowy Disguise, and this is great because you pop a Vigor, you go into Shadowy Disguise, and every single Vigor crits. So I definitely recommend maybe like roll dodge canceling Vigor, then go into Shadowy Disguise, and just watch those Vigor crits. You'll heal up so much, and people won't understand why you're healing so much as a Stamblade. But you can, and that's how. Also, it's really buggy, Shadowy Disguise, so you really want to get some distance on your enemies before using it, otherwise you're just going to pop right out of it. Something to note, too, is that if you're in Shadowy Disguise, you can't actually cast Vigor anymore like you used to. So always cast it before you go in. And then Shadow Image. This is a skill I crutch on really hard. It is amazing. It's hard to get used to. The range is kind of weird. But let me show you why I like it so much. If you're on an elevated surface like this, you put your shadow image down, you jump down, everyone follows you, port right back up, and you laugh at them. It's really good for towers, mile gates, keeps, anything really. It's just like, think of a 1v4. You're in a resource, it's a 1v4. You put your shadow image down, you drop down, and those guys have to make a choice. If they don't know how shadow image works, then it's a win-win, basically. But if they do know how it works, they have to be split up. Like, all four of them can jump down, but then you can put right back up and they have to walk around. Or all four of them can stay up, and then you can just stay down there and run away or do whatever you want. But if two of them jump down because they think they're smart, because the other two stay up, well, then you just created a 1v4 into two 1v2s, which is very much in your favor. Not really in your favor, but it's way easier than a 1v4. It's also just good for just escaping. You just, I don't know, you put your shadow image down, you run away from it. Very important. And then once you're under pressure, you put right back to it, and all the enemies are over there, and you're over here. Really good. Hard to get used to. If you don't like it, then maybe run Relentless Focus, Siphoning Attacks, but I really like it, and I think it's really good, especially against Stamsorks because of Hurricane. So you can still cloak against Stamsorks, because say you're in their face, they got the Hurricane going, you port back, and then you cloak. Honestly, it's good against everything, in my opinion. Poison Injection, really good. Often gets killing blows for me. And with the Master Bow, it's even better. If you wanted to use the other morph for a ranged interrupt, you could do that too. I personally prefer to bash. But if that's what you like, then go ahead. Shuffle. This skill is really important because this build is built on mobility. You always want to be moving. You always want to have that major expedition, sprinting around. You have high regen, so it's doable. And with Shuffle, you get that snare immunity. And without that snare immunity, this build would be very hard to pull off, especially just like porting to a shade and having a ton of snares on you. It's just like, people are just going to turn around and gap close you. So it's really important. I hate how the major evasion it's so lacking in counterplay, but it's just, you gotta use it on this build. The snare removal just cannot be given up. Vigor, really good. Ballista. The cool thing about this alt is that you can put it down, gap close, and then fear, and then they'll just take a bunch of damage from the ballista, and then you can, keep doing your attacks, whatever. But if you don't like ballista, then Soul Tether is really good. It's a really good ulti if you have a bunch of people on you and you just want to get a good burst heal and a good stun. Also, Shooting Star is really good. You get the 12 ulti, and the cool thing about Shooting Star is you could pop it on someone, and then drink a potion, which gives you 12 ulti from Catalyst, and then you basically have your ult back. I can actually generate ult in a 1v1 with, say I stun someone with Shooting Star, or I fear them right before it lands, I will get my ult back. I'll get my incap back before their CC immunity runs out. So, a really good combo, puts a lot of pressure. You can just drop two ults like bam bam. Awesome. But Shooting Star is kind of telegraphed. The damage isn't as good as you'd want it to be, but it's kind of a cool combo. And then front bar, we got Executioner. A lot of people like Killer's Blade too. The cool thing about this one is that it heals you, and it gives you more crits with this passive here. But I don't like it because I often kill people with Executioner when they're at 30%, which you cannot do with this one because it scales with 25%. Also, Executioner, I just find that animation cancels better for me. It's a personal preference thing, but it's a little bit more expensive than Killer's Blade, so Killer's Blade is a good option too. Rally, really important. Ambush, this is another personal preference thing. If you wanted to, you could go crit charge. It does a little bit more damage, it's a little cheaper, but I personally like Ambush more. It's a nice empower, and I just find that the actual animation just works for me better. I can better animation cancel with it. Another personal preference. Crit charge is really good too, so do whatever one you like more. Surprise attack, really good. Mass Hysteria, It's a really good stun, AoE, minor maim, snare, unblockable. But I use it most when I have maybe like 3 guys on me and I really need them to get off of me. I'll just pop fear, animation cancel, roll dodge away, and they're all sitting there running away afraid. So really good skill to get people off of you. And then Incap. Now this skill is great. High damage, awesome burst, stun, major defile, increased your damage against them. So while the damage on this build may not be particularly high, if you have the Incap going on them, then all your damage does 20% more. So it's just great. It's a really good ult. Definitely recommend using it. And then for passives, a couple of the ones that I want to hit on are Refreshing Shadows. So this is what makes this build be able to have such high regen. And notice it also has the health recovery in there. So you can get your health recovery really high, maybe with Tri-Drinks or the gold food or whatever. And then you could go 2-piece Troll King. And I'd recommend doing that if you're Khajiit. But my personal preference is I don't like Troll King. I know a lot of people use it, a lot of people love it. A lot of people say, oh, it makes up for Stanblade's trash healing. But in my opinion, I think it's bad. And that is because on this build, you should only be dying when you make mistakes or when you get one shot. And Troll King doesn't really help you in either of those situations. Maybe a little bit for making mistakes, but Troll King's not going to save you from a one-shot. And once you get really good at this build, you will only be dying to one-shots. It seems pretty good in a 1v1, but personally, open world, I don't like it. Go ahead and try it for yourself, see if you like it or not, but just a personal preference thing again. And then Battle Rush. This passive is great. If you're in a 1vx, this passive is up actually a lot. Especially if you're killing people, because you need to kill someone to proc it. But with this and your high stam regen, I'll just pop a Tried potion so you can see how high it can get. Oh, my drink ran out. Drink that real quick. So this is what your regens are with a potion on. And then with that passive, it's just going to be even higher. It's just really ridiculous stacking. So a really strong passive. Hasty Retreat, this one is kind of an obvious one. Really vital to this build. You can actually proc it if you roll dodge on your 2H bar, but animation cancel. Let's see if I can pull it off. Yeah, so see I got it there. Keeps you mobile, lasts for 5 seconds. Really awesome passive. Really vital to this build. And then Continuous Attack, right here. This passive is great because this build is already stacking weapon damage and regen. So, with this passive, and the high stam regen and magicka regen, and the pretty high weapon damage when you get the multipliers going, it just buffs you so much. It's awesome to have that passive. When you're running this build, try to keep that passive up as much as you can. And Combat Frenzy, this passive is really good too. Because of that passive, I can jump around to each guy, incap them, and I'll have the incap up for the next guy. If you kill someone with incap, roll dodge, and then executioner, by the time you poison injection ambush to the next guy, your incap will be up again. So it's just really good ulti regen with that passive. For race, I recommend Wood Elf because of this passive. Increase your stamina recovery by 21%. Khajiit is good too, especially if you're going to go Troll King. I personally wouldn't recommend that. Just personal preference, like I said before, but it's not bad. I've seen it work well. Also, any other stam race is good, but I feel like Wood Elf is the best option. And then for CP, 26 Warlord, 1 Magician, 5 Sprinter, 1 Bashing Focus. I bash a lot with this build. If you don't personally bash, then don't put a points into it. I like to spread my points out a little bit just because you get your most return by putting 1 point into each because you get that 1%. Putting 1 point here instead of 1 point here is more bang for your buck. But if you don't like that, then go ahead and put more points here, whatever you prefer. 89 Mooncalf, 31 Arcanist. If you want more stam recovery, put more in here and less in here. but with having this many points, you get the Windrunner passive. The thing about this passive is I can't really tell that big of a difference having it and not having it. Just looking at it, it looks good, but it doesn't make or break this build. So if you don't want to put 120 points into this tree, then you don't need to. It's not that big of a deal. And then 33 Tumbling, 1 Shadow Ward. Let's see if I'm missing any here. None of these CP passives, the ones you get for putting points in, are not very good anyways on this tree. 27 Blessed, or Blessed, however you want to say it. 48 Precise Strikes. Usually if you're critting, then you're killing. So by stacking this tree, you'll have much more damage output. If you do your combo and you don't crit at all, you're probably not gonna kill the guy. So put the points in where you're actually gonna kill them. Thaumaturge, it pretty much only buffs Poison Injection, but I still feel like the points are worth it. If you want to put points somewhere else, then go ahead. 2 Piercing, 100 Mighty. It's really nice to have Perfect Strike. Increase your weapon critical by 12%. Last Stand is really good too. You're going to fall below 20% a lot just because the health is so low on this build. So you get that 18 ultimate over 8 seconds, which is pretty good. Exploiter, pretty good. Opportunist, pretty good. Especially if you're maybe bashing a Rezer or Jesus Beamer or something. And then 47 Resistance. Phase is pretty good too. After you roll dodge, you get a little bit more resist. It's not that big of a difference, but it's okay. 24 Thick Skinned. Since Darkcloak got nerfed, it's nice to have some dot reduction damage. 53 Hardy, 53 Ellie Defender. Then you get the Unchained passive. This passive is awesome. It's a must-have. Kind of overpowered in my opinion. Reduce the stamina cost of abilities by 80% for 3 seconds after breaking free. You do that a lot on this build. If people are smart, they're going to be stunning you all the time, and then you can get this 80% up for a lot. So it's really good. 10 Quick Recovery, and that's it for CP. And then for combos, I'll link some gameplay using this build so you can kind of see my combos in action, but usually what I like to do is I put my Shadow Image down, Poison Injection, Ambush, and Capital Dodge, and then turn around and execute. And by doing that, it makes you immune to damage because you're in the roll dodge, but then your roll dodge is also doing damage because of the rune. So, say I have 3 guys on me, have my buffs up, I go in for the ambush, and then I do the in-cap roll dodge. Well then, everyone who shot me just then missed their attacks. Since I was in a roll dodge, I can turn around, execute, roll dodge again, push my Shadow, Dark Cloak, whatever you want to do. So, really strong combo. Eternal Hunt is great because it is offensive and defensive. Defensive because when you're roll dodging, they get close, you hit this rune, they're immobilized. Offensive because you can put the rune under them after you stun them. Especially against builds that don't move when they're attacking you as much, like Magicka-Sorks. Also, usually when I'm in a 1vx, when I'm roll dodging, I usually don't just roll dodge, I usually just cast an ability then roll dodge, because since the stamina regen is so high, you can afford to do so. So, Shuffle roll dodge, Vigor roll dodge, Shadow Image roll dodge. Sometimes you might not even, once you get the hang of it, it's just like awesome. Your buffs are always up, you're always got some healing going, and you don't have to sit there and wait for the animation because you're canceling it with the roll dodge. So that's also really good. That's about it for this build. Let me know if you have any questions, or contact me in-game. My character name is on the screen there, Leafy Eric, or it is also at Leafy Eric, NAPC, so just let me know, post a comment, message me in-game, just give me feedback. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the build.